Okay, it's going everybody. Going to be continuing from page, page 111. Sorry, 1 second. Red. Yeah, page 11. It costs nothing to abstract the interest way, and it adds much to one's prestige. Why? No one knows. Without untoward incident, Emmylou and Alva found the seats he had reserved. There was much noise in the theater, much passing to and fro, much stumbling down dark aisles. People were always leaving their seats, admonishing their companions to hold them, and someone was always taking them, despite the curtain sometimes belligerent. This seat is taken. Then, when the original occupant would return, there would be still another argument. This happened so frequently that there seemed to be a continual wrangling automatically staged in different parts of the auditorium. Then people were always looking for someone or for something, always peering into the darkness, emitting code whistles and calling to Jane or Jim or Pete or Bill. At the end of each aisle, both upstairs and down, people were packed in a solid mass, a grumbling, garrulous mass, elbowing their neighbors, cursing the management, and standing on tiptoe, trying to find an empty, intact seat. Intact because every other seat in the theater seemed to be broken. Honkers sing up and down the aisle, shouting, ice cream, peanuts, chewing gum, or candy. People hissed at them and ordered what they wanted. A sad, inadequate crew of ushers inefficiently led people up one aisle and down another, trying to find their supposedly reserved seats. A lone fireman strove valiantly to keep the aisles clear as the fire law stipulated. It was a most chaotic and confusing scene. First, a movie was shown to while the organ played mournful jazz. About 1 o'clock, the midnight review went on. The curtain went up on the customary chorus ensemble singing the customary "Hello, we're glad to be here. We're glad to please you" opening song. This was followed by the usual song and dance team, a blues singer, a lady Charleston dancer, and sorry, and two blackface comedians. Each would have his turn, then begin all over again, aided frequently by the energetic and noisy chorus, which somehow managed to appear upon the stage almost naked in every scene. Almost naked in the first scene, and keep getting more and more naked as the evening progressed. Emma Lou had been to the Lafayette before with John and had been shocked by the scantily clad women in obscene skits. The only difference that she could see in this particular review was that the performers were more bawdy and more boisterous, and she had never been in or seen such an audience. There was as much, if not more, activity in the orchestra box seats than there was on the stage. It was hard to tell whether the cast was before or behind the proscenium arch. There seemed to be a veritable contest going on between paid performers and their paying audience, and Emmylou found the spontaneous monkey shines and utterances of those around her much more amusing than the stereotyped antic of the higher performers on stage. She was surprised to find that she was actually enjoying herself, yet she was supposing that after the house red party she could stand anything. Imagine people in their flats to the public and charging one another who had the price to pay 25 cents to enter. Imagine people going to such bedlam bacchanals. A new scene on the stage attracted her attention. A very colorful dressed group of people had gathered for a party. Emma immediately noticed that all the men were dark, and that all the women were either very light brown or high yaller. She turned to Alva. Don't they ever have anything else but fair chorus girls? Alva made a pretense of being very occupied with the business on the stage. Happily, at that moment, one pair of black-faced comedians had set the audience in an uproar with a suggestive joke. After a moment, Emma Lou found herself laughing too. The two comedians were funny, no matter how prejudiced one might be against unoriginality. There must be other potent elements to humor besides surprise. Then a Topsy-like girl skated onto the stage to the tune of Ireland must be heaven because my mother came from there. Besides being corked, under her skin was jet black. The girl had on a wig of kinky hair. Her lips were painted red, their thickness exaggerated by the paint. Her coming created a stir. Everyone concerned was indignant that something like her should crash the party, their party. She attempted to attach herself to certain men in the crowd. The straight men spurned her by merely turning away. The comedians made a great fuss about it, pushing her from one to the other, and finally getting into a riotous argument because each accused the other of having invited her. It ended by them agreeing to toss her boldly off the stage to the orchestral accompaniment of Bye Bye Blackbird, while the entire party loud proclaimed that black cats must go. Then followed the usual rigmarole carried on weekly at the Lafayette concerning the understandability of black girls. Everyone, that is, all the males, let it be known that high browns and high yarders were 40 with them, but that they were interrupted by the reentry of the little black girl riding a mule and singing mournfully as she was thus thus transported across the stage. A yellow gal rides in the limousine. A brown skin rides a Ford. A black gal rides an old jackass. But she gets there. Yes, my lord. Emma Lou was burning up with indignation, so color conscious that she become that any time someone mentioned or joked about skin color, she immediately imagined that they were referring to her. Now she even felt that all the people near her were looking at her and that their laughs were at her expense. She remained silent throughout the rest of the performance, averting her eyes from the stage and trying hard not to say anything to Alva before they left the theater. After what seemed an eternity, the finale screamed its goodbye at the audience, and Alva escorted her out of 7th Avenue. Alva was tired and thirsty. He had been up all night the night before the party to which he had taken Geraldine, and he had to get up unusually early on Friday morning in order to go after his laundry. Of course, when he arrived at Bobby's apartment where his laundry had been done, he found that his shirts were not yet ironed. So he had gone to bed there, with the result that he hadn't been able to go to sleep, nor had the shirts been ironed. But that was another matter. First time I ever went to a midnight show without something on my hip, he complained to Emma Lou as they crossed the taxi-infested street in order to escape the crowds leaving the theater and idling in front of it. Even at 4 a.m. in the morning. Well, Emma Lou returned vehemently, it's the last time I'll ever go to that place any kind of way. Alva hadn't expected this. What's the matter with you? You're always taking me someplace or placing me in some position where I'll be insulted. Insulted? This was far beyond Alva. Who on earth had insulted her and when? But he paused, then advanced cautiously. Sugar, I don't know what you mean. Emma Lou was ready for a quarrel. In fact, she had been trying to pick one with him ever since the night she had gone to that house rent party, and the landlady had asked her to move on the following day. Alva's curt refusal of her proposal that they live together had hurt her far more than he had imagined. Somehow or other, he didn't think she could be so serious about the matter, especially upon such short notice. But Emma Lou had been so certain that he would be as excited over the suggestion as she had been, that she hadn't considered meeting a definite refusal. Then the finding of a room had been irritating to contemplate. She couldn't have called it irritating accomplishment because Alva had done that for her. She had told him on Sunday morning that she had to move by Sunday night. He had found a place for her. She had to admit that he had found an exceptionally nice place too. It was just 2 blocks from him on 138th Street in between 8th Avenue and Edgecombe. It was near the elevated station near the park and cost only $10.50 a week for the room, kitchenette, and private bath. On top of his refusing to live with her, Alva had broken two dates with Emmylou, claiming that he was playing poker. On one of these nights after leaving work, Emmylou had decided to walk past his house. Even at a distance, she could see that there was light in his room, and when she had passed the house, she recognized Geraldine, the girl with whom she had seen Alva dancing at the Renaissance Casino, seated at the window. Angrily, she had gone home, determined to break with Alva on the morrow, and on reaching home, had found a letter from her mother, which had disturbed her even more. For a long time now, her mother had been urging her to come home, and her Uncle Joe had even sent her word that he meant to afford a ticket at an early date. But Emily had no intentions of going home. She was obsessed. She was so obsessed with the idea that her mother didn't want her, and she was so incensed that at the people with whom she knew she would be forced to associate that she could consider her mother's hysterically put request only as an insult, thus presuming she had answered in kind, giving vent to her feelings about the matter. This disturbing letter was in a letter to her own splenic epistle, and what hurt her most was not the sharp counselings and verbose limitations therein, but the concluding phrase which read, "I don't see how the Lord could have given me such an evil black hussy for a daughter." The following morning, she had telephoned Alva, determined to break with him, or at least make him believe as if she was about to break with him. But Alva had merely yawned and asked her not to be a goose. Could he help it if Braxton's girl chose to sit in his window? It was much Braxton's room as it was his. True, Braxton wouldn't be there long, and while he was, he entertained. He certainly should have full privileges. That quieted Emma Lou then, but there was nothing that could quiet her now. She continued arguing as they walked toward 135th Street. "You don't know what I mean." "No, I guess not," Alva assented wearily, then quickened his pace. He didn't want to have a public scene with this black wench. But Emma Lou was not to be appeased. "Well, you know what I mean." Well, you will know what I mean. First, you take me out with a bunch of your supposedly high-tuned friends and sit silent while people poke fun at me. Then you take me to a theater where you know I have my feelings hurt." She stopped for a breath. Alva filled in the gap. "If you ask me," he said wearily, "I think you're full of stuff. Let's take a taxi. I'm too tired to walk." He hailed a taxi, pushed her into it, and gave the driver the address. Then he turned to Emmylou, saying something which he regretted having said it a moment later. "How did my friends insult you?" "You know how they insulted me. Sitting up there making fun of me because I'm black." Alva laughed, saying something he also regretted later. "That's right, laugh. I suppose you laughed with them then, behind my back, and planned all that talk before I arrived." Alva didn't answer, and Emily cried all the rest of the way home. Once there, he tried to soothe her. "Come on, sugar. Let Alva put you to bed." Emma Lou was not to be sugared so easily. She continued to cry. Alva sat down, sat down on her bed beside her. Okay, sorry about that. That's going to be the end. I'm going to continue on.